The morning sun blazed over Panama City's glittering skyline as I stepped onto our hotel balcony, coffee in hand. 5 days into our anniversary trip, and the city had exceeded every expectation. My wife emerged from the bathroom, her sundress catching the breeze as she joined me at the railing. "Another beautiful day," she said, though her eyes remained fixed on her phone screen. "Ready for the canal tour?" I asked, wrapping an arm around her waist. She tensed slightly before relaxing into my embrace. "Absolutely. Just responding to some work emails." Our guide, a weathered Panamanian man in his late 50s with deep-set eyes and a knowing smile, had been our constant companion since we arrived. He'd introduced himself simply as your guide and insisted we call him by the nickname everyone used. His English carried the musical lilt of Spanish, and his knowledge of Panama's history seemed bottomless. We met him in the lobby at 9 sharp. He greeted us with his usual warmth, but I noticed his gaze lingered on my wife a moment longer than usual, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. The Myra Flores locks were spectacular. Massive container ships inched through the engineering marvel while our guide explained the expansion project and its impact on global trade. My wife wandered away from our group, phone pressed to her ear. I watched her pace near the observation deck's edge, her free hand gesturing emphatically. "Your wife, she is very busy," our guide observed quietly beside me. "She runs her own marketing consulting firm," I explained. "Sometimes clients can't wait, even on vacation." He nodded slowly. "Of course. Business is important." But something in his tone made me glance at him sharply. He was watching my wife with an expression I couldn't quite read, concern, perhaps, or suspicion. That afternoon, we explored Casco Viejo, the old colonial district with its restored buildings and vibrant street art. My wife suggested splitting up to browse the artisan shops independently. "We'll cover more ground that way," she said brightly. "Meet back at that cafe in an hour." Before I could respond, our guide interjected smoothly. "Actually, I recommend we stay together. These streets can be confusing, and some areas are not safe for tourists alone." My wife's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "I'm sure I can handle a few shops." "Please," our guide said firmly. "It is my responsibility to keep you both safe." She acquiesced with visible reluctance, and we continued as a trio through the cobblestone streets. I browsed a gallery featuring local paintings while my wife examined jewelry in the shop next door. Through the window, I saw a man approach her, tall, angular, with slicked-back hair and expensive casual clothes that screamed foreigner. They didn't touch or even stand particularly close, but their body language suggested familiarity. When I joined her moments later, the man had vanished. "See anything you like?" I asked. "Nothing special," she replied, already moving toward the exit. Our guide appeared at my elbow. "There is an excellent restaurant nearby. The seafood is exceptional." Over lunch, my wife barely touched her corvina. Her phone buzzed constantly, and each time she glanced at the screen, her expression flickered between anxiety and determination. Our guide made polite conversation about Panamanian cuisine and coffee cultivation, but I noticed he was watching her too. That evening, back at the hotel, I found her on the balcony again, speaking rapidly in hushed tones. I caught fragments. "Tomorrow at the market. Has to be ready. No mistakes this time." When she realized I was there, she ended the call abruptly. "Everything okay?" I asked.
Fine.
"Just work drama. You know how it is." She kissed my cheek and slipped past me into the room. "I'm exhausted. Let's call it an early night." As I lay beside her in the darkness, listening to her restless breathing, unease coiled in my stomach. The phone calls, the mysterious man, her distraction, individually, they meant nothing. Together, they formed a pattern I couldn't quite name but definitely couldn't ignore. Tomorrow we were scheduled to visit the indigenous Embra village up the Chagres River. Our guide had promised it would be the highlight of our trip, an authentic glimpse into traditional Panamanian culture far from the tourist crowds. I had no idea how right he would be, though not for the reasons either of us expected. The motorized canoe cut through the brown waters of the Chagres River, dense jungle pressing in from both banks. Our guide sat at the stern, one hand on the outboard motor, his weathered face impassive as he navigated around partially submerged logs. My wife sat in front of me, her wide-brimmed hat obscuring her face, phone clutched in her lap despite the lack of signal this far from the city. The Embera village materialized from the greenery, a cluster of thatched roof huts on stilts, connected by wooden walkways. Children splashed in the shallows while women in traditional dress prepared lunch over open fires. The chief welcomed us with a ceremonial blessing, and we were invited to observe their daily activities. My wife excused herself almost immediately. "Bathroom," she mouthed, though I noticed she headed not toward the facilities our guide indicated but toward the perimeter of the village, where a small dock extended into the river. I was about to follow when our guide's hand gripped my shoulder gently but firmly. "Let her go," he said quietly. "Come, I will show you the traditional wood-carving techniques." For the next hour, I learned to shape tagua nuts into small animals while keeping one eye on the village paths. My wife reappeared eventually, her expression neutral, but I noticed a small bulge in her canvas bag that hadn't been there before. At lunch, fresh fish wrapped in plantain leaves, another boat arrived. The same man from Casco Vigo stepped onto the dock, now wearing cargo pants and a photographer's vest, complete with camera bag. He approached our group casually, introducing himself as a travel blogger documenting indigenous cultures. "Small world," he said, his English carrying a faint European accent I couldn't place. "Didn't I see you folks in the old quarter yesterday?" "What a coincidence," my wife said too quickly. Our guide said nothing, but I saw his eyes narrow as he watched their interaction. The man took photos of the village, speaking with the chief through a translator, all while positioning himself near my wife whenever possible. At one point, I saw them exchange what appeared to be casual nods, a silent communication that made my chest tighten. The return journey was quiet. Storm clouds gathered overhead, and the first drops of rain began falling as we reached the dock where our rental car waited. Our guide helped us secure our bags in the trunk, then pulled me aside while my wife climbed into the passenger seat. "Tomorrow is your last day," he said, his voice low and urgent. "The big market in the morning, then the airport in the afternoon." "That's right. Our flight leaves at 5. He glanced toward the car, where my wife was absorbed in her phone again. "Be very careful at the market. Keep your belongings close. Do not let anyone put anything in your bags without your knowledge." "I don't understand. Are you warning me about pickpockets?" His dark eyes held mine with uncomfortable intensity. "I am warning you about your wife." The words hung between us like the humid air before a thunderstorm. "What are you talking about?" "I have been a guide for 30 years. I have learned to see things, to read people. Your wife, she is planning something. That man who keeps appearing, he is not a blogger. They are working together." Anger flared hot in my chest. "That's ridiculous. You're suggesting my wife." "I am suggesting nothing. I am telling you what I have observed. The phone calls, always in private. The signals with this man. The way she separates from you at every opportunity. Tomorrow at the market, something will happen. They will try to put something in your luggage, I think. Something that will cause you very serious trouble at the airport." "This is insane. Why would she?" "Money," he said simply. "It is always money. Perhaps insurance? Or perhaps she has debts you do not know about. Or perhaps this man has convinced her of some business opportunity. I do not know the why. I only know the what, and the what is dangerous for you." Rain pelted down harder now. My wife tapped on the windshield, gesturing impatiently. Our guide reached into his pocket and pressed a card into my hand. "My nephew works airport security. If you need help tomorrow, call this number. Tell him I sent you." "You're wrong about this," I said, but my voice lacked conviction. "I hope I am. But if I am right, and you are in the airport holding room being questioned about drugs or illegal artifacts in your bags, you will wish you had listened." He stepped back, raising his voice to normal volume. "Thank you for allowing me to show you my beautiful country. Safe travels tomorrow." I drove back to the hotel in silence, my mind churning. My wife hummed along to the radio, seemingly relaxed for the first time in days. Was our guide paranoid, reading sinister motives into innocent coincidences? Or was I the naive one, blind to a betrayal happening right in front of me? That night, while my wife showered, I searched through her belongings. I felt like a criminal, but fear overrode guilt. In the inner pocket of her carry-on, I found a padded envelope containing what looked like small carved figurines, the kind sold at every market in Panama. Unremarkable, except for their weight. They felt too heavy for wood. The shower shut off. I quickly replaced everything and retreated to the balcony, my heart hammering. When she emerged in her robe, toweling her hair, she seemed lighter somehow, as if a burden had been lifted. "Big day tomorrow," she said cheerfully. "One last adventure before we head home." "Can't wait," I replied, the lie bitter on my tongue. The Mercado de Mariscos erupted with life at dawn, fishermen hauling their catches onto ice-filled tables, vendors arranging pyramids of tropical fruit, tourists haggling over hand-woven textiles. The smells of ceviche, coffee, and salt air mingled in the humid morning heat. My wife seemed energized, practically dragging me from stall to stall with enthusiasm I hadn't seen since we arrived. "We should get gifts for everyone back home," she announced, browsing a display of colorful molars, the intricate reverse applique textiles made by Gunner women. "Your sister would love one of these." I watched her carefully, looking for signs of deception. She seemed genuinely engaged, laughing with vendors, comparing prices, holding items up to the light. Maybe our guide had been wrong. Maybe paranoia and too many spy novels had warped his perception. Then I saw him, the supposed travel blogger, browsing a stall 3 rows over. He wasn't photographing anything. He was watching us. "I need to use the restroom," my wife announced suddenly. "The stall owner said there are facilities at the back of the market. I'll just be a minute." "I'll come with you." "Don't be ridiculous. Stay with our bags. I'll be right back." She was already moving, weaving through the crowd with practiced ease. I stood guard over our shopping bags and her large purse, which she'd left beside a wooden bench. The blogger had vanished. Sweat trickled down my spine, whether from heat or anxiety, I couldn't tell. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. A young boy approached, maybe 12 years old, carrying a showbox wrapped in newspaper. "Excuse me, mister. Lady said to give you this. She is coming soon, buying something special for you. She said put in the big bag for surprise." He gestured toward my wife's purse, already backing away into the crowd. Every instinct screamed danger. This was it, the moment our guide had warned about. "Wait," I called, but the boy had disappeared. I looked down at the package in my hands. It was surprisingly heavy. My fingers trembled as I carefully peeled back a corner of the newspaper wrapping. Inside were carved figurines identical to the ones I'd found in my wife's luggage, along with several small bundles wrapped in plastic and tape. I didn't need to be a customs agent to know what this looked like. "Don't open that here." I spun around. Our guide stood behind me, seemingly materialized from nowhere. He wore civilian clothes instead of his usual tour company polo, and his expression was grim. "What are you doing here?" "Making sure you do not make a terrible mistake. Were you really going to put that in your wife's bag?" "No. Maybe. I don't know." The package felt radioactive in my hands. "What is this?" "Drugs. Likely cocaine, but possibly heroin. Enough to ensure many years in prison and destroy your life completely." He took the package from me carefully, rewrapping it. "The boy, did he say your wife told him to give this to you?" I nodded, nausea rising in my throat. "She has been very clever. Security cameras show you accepting the package. Your fingerprints are now on it. If you had placed it in her bag as instructed, she claims innocence. You must have done it without her knowledge. At the airport, she discovers it, perhaps pretends to mistake it for a gift, and alerts security. She is the concerned citizen. You are the criminal." "But why? We've been married for 8 years. We have a good life, good jobs." "The man she has been meeting, they have been planning this for months, I think. I made some calls yesterday. He is known to authorities, though never convicted. He recruits people, usually women, to help set up their partners. There is always money promised, insurance payouts, business opportunities, or simply payment for services rendered. The market spun around me. A vendor called out prices. Children laughed. Life continued normally while my world shattered. Where is she now? Watching from a distance, waiting to see if you take the bait. When you do, she will return, acting normally. At the airport, the plan unfolds. I need to confront her. I need to understand. No. His grip on my arm was iron. You confront her, you give away that you know. She and her partner disappear, regroup, try again differently. Or worse, they claim you are paranoid, abusive, and file reports that support their narrative. You must be smarter. Then what do I do? He pulled out his phone, making a quick call in rapid Spanish. Then he turned back to me. My nephew and his colleagues are waiting at the airport. We have been building a case. Your wife's partner is wanted for questioning in 3 other countries. This time, we have everything we need: surveillance photos, documented meetings, traced communications. But we need her to go through with it, to incriminate herself fully. You want me to play along? To let her think she's succeeding? Until you reach airport security, yes. Then she will discover that the trap she built has caught her instead. He held up the package. This goes to the police now, as evidence. But you must act normally. Can you do this? Could I sit beside her on the drive to the airport, knowing she planned to destroy my life? Could I make small talk and smile while my heart turned to stone? What choice do I have? You could walk away now. Leave Panama alone. But she would do this to someone else, and next time might succeed. My wife emerged from the crowd, carrying a small bag and wearing a bright smile. Sorry that took forever. The line was ridiculous. Did you get anything good while I was gone? I forced my features into a neutral expression, channeling every acting skill I didn't know I possessed. Just looked around, ready to head back to the hotel. Let's do one more lap. I want to find something really special for us to remember this trip by. Our guide melted back into the market crowd. My wife linked her arm through mine, chattering about souvenirs and packing strategies. She seemed genuinely happy, utterly convincing. If I hadn't seen the evidence, I would never have suspected. As we walked, I wondered which was worse, the betrayal itself or the performance of love she was giving. Every laugh, every touch, every affectionate glance was a lie, a manipulation, a piece of the trap closing around me. Except now I knew. And knowledge, however painful, was power. The hotel room felt like a stage set, too bright, too normal, everything exactly as it should be except for the fundamental truth that nothing was real anymore. My wife hummed while packing, folding clothes with meticulous care, organizing toiletries into plastic bags for security screening. Don't forget your phone charger, she reminded me, pointing to the nightstand. And we should pack snacks. You always get cranky on long flights. The casual domesticity of it, the 8 years of shared routines and mutual care, made the betrayal cut deeper. How long had she been planning this? Had there ever been a real version of us, or had I been a mark from the beginning? I'm going to miss Panama, I said, testing the waters. It's been an amazing trip. Hasn't it? We should travel more often. She zipped her suitcase closed with a flourish. Maybe Europe next. I've always wanted to see Portugal. Would we have even made it to Portugal, or would I have been languishing in a Panamanian prison while she collected whatever blood money had been promised? I swallowed the bitter taste of rage and forced a smile. Sounds perfect. The drive to Tocumen International Airport took 40 minutes through midday traffic. My wife drove, leaving me free to watch the city slide past, the modern banking district giving way to residential neighborhoods, then commercial strips, finally the airport approach. She seemed relaxed, singing along to Spanish radio, occasionally reaching over to squeeze my hand. Thank you for this trip, she said as we pulled into the rental car return. I know work has been crazy for both of us. It was good to reconnect. The sincerity in her voice was masterful. If I didn't know better, I would have melted. Instead, I committed every word, every gesture to memory, evidence of how completely she'd fooled me. Inside the terminal, the choreography began. We checked our bags at the counter, my wife ensuring the clerk tagged everything properly, commenting on how she hoped our luggage would arrive safely. She suggested we grab coffee before security, then conveniently remembered she'd left her water bottle in the rental car. "I'll run back and get it. Meet you at the cafe." This was it, the moment when the package would somehow materialize in our checked luggage. Our guide had explained the most common method, an accomplice posing as airport staff with access to the baggage handling area. The package would be placed in our bags after check-in but before loading, ensuring no security cameras caught the handoff. "I'll come with you," I said. "Don't be silly. It's a long walk back, and we still need to get through security. Just order me a cappuccino." "I insist." I took her arm gently but firmly. "We should stay together." Frustration flickered across her face before the mask slid back into place. "All right, if you're going to be romantic about it." We walked back to the rental return together, collected the water bottle she'd deliberately left behind, and returned to the terminal. I saw her eyes scanning the crowd, looking for someone. The blogger, perhaps, or another accomplice ready to confirm the package was in place. At the cafe, she excused herself to the restroom. I watched her pull out her phone as she walked away, typing rapidly. When she returned, she seemed agitated despite her attempts to hide it. "Everything okay?"
Fine.
"Just some work crisis. Nothing that can't wait until we're home." But her coffee sat untouched, and she kept checking her phone, her legs bouncing with nervous energy. Security screening passed without incident. We moved through the concourses toward our gate, browsing duty-free shops, discussing whether we should get liquor for my brother. My wife's anxiety grew more visible, shorter responses, distracted glances around the terminal, fingers drumming on every surface. At the gate, boarding began for our flight. We were Zone 3, which meant watching the first passengers line up while we waited in the cramped seating area. My wife excused herself again, disappearing toward the restrooms. Through the windows, I could see our plane being serviced, fuel trucks, catering vehicles, luggage carts lined up beneath the cargo hold. She returned just as our zone was called, slightly breathless. "Ready." We joined the line, boarding passes in hand. The gate agent scanned our documents with professional efficiency. We were 3 people from the boarding door when I heard it, a sharp voice calling out, "Excuse me, sir. Please step aside." 2 airport security officers approached, accompanied by a man in a suit who introduced himself as a customs supervisor. Behind them, our tour guide stood in casual clothes, an official-looking badge hanging around his neck. "We need you both to come with us, please," the supervisor said. "There's been an irregularity with your checked luggage." My wife's face went pale, then flushed. "What kind of irregularity?" "This way, please." We were escorted to a small office near the security checkpoint, our phones confiscated, our bags retrieved from the plane. The supervisor opened our luggage methodically on a metal examination table. In my wife's suitcase, nested among her carefully folded clothes, sat 3 of the carved figurines I'd seen before. "These are yours?" the supervisor asked her. I bought them at a market. Souvenirs." He picked one up, examining it closely. Carved molars in wooden frames. Typical tourist items. Then he did something unexpected. He flicked open a hidden compartment in the base of the frame. White powder filled a small cavity. "Except these have been modified for smuggling. Approximately 50 grams of cocaine per unit. Combined with the 2 units found in your husband's luggage, you're looking at serious trafficking charges." "That's impossible." My wife's performance was Oscar-worthy, shock, horror, betrayal all flickering across her features. "I don't know how that got there. Someone must have." She turned to me, eyes wide with accusation. "Did you buy these? What have you done?" "Me." I kept my voice calm, following our guide's instructions. "You're the one who's been making mysterious phone calls all week. Meeting with that blogger who kept showing up everywhere we went." "What blogger? You're being paranoid." The supervisor held up a hand. "Before this goes further, there's something you should both see." He pulled out a tablet, pressing play on a video file. Security footage from the baggage handling area showed a worker, the man I'd seen following us all week, now in airline staff uniform, opening our checked bags and inserting the carved frames. Timestamp: 45 minutes ago. "That's your partner," I said to my wife. "The man from Casco Vijo, from the Embera village." Her face collapsed, the mask finally cracking. "I don't know what you're talking about." "We've been investigating this smuggling ring for 6 months, the supervisor said. "Your partner is already in custody. We apprehended him attempting to leave the baggage area. He's currently providing testimony in exchange for consideration of charges." "This is insane. I'm being set up." Our guide stepped forward, his expression sympathetic but firm. "Mrs. We have phone records, bank transfers, hotel security footage of you meeting with this man in Panama City 3 months ago when you told your husband you were at a conference in Miami. Text messages. We have everything." The fight drained out of her. She slumped in the plastic chair, her face in her hands. "I needed the money," she whispered. "The business was failing. I had debts he didn't know about. And he promised. He said it was just this once." I felt nothing but cold, spreading numbness. And I was supposed to take the fall. She looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw something genuine in her eyes. Grief, perhaps, or shame. "You would have been fine eventually. They have programs, lawyers. I would have made sure you got a good attorney." "How generous." "Sir," the supervisor said gently, "you're free to go. We have everything we need from you. Your luggage will be cleared, and you can catch the next available flight." "And her?" "She'll be processed and held pending trial. Given the evidence and her partner's cooperation, I expect she'll face significant prison time." My wife, my ex-wife, I supposed, though the paperwork would take time, was led away by security officers. She didn't look back. Our guide walked me to a quiet corner of the terminal, where we sat in uncomfortable plastic chairs surrounded by the bustle of normal travelers heading to normal destinations. "Thank you," I said finally. "If you hadn't warned me, you would be in her place, and she would be on a plane to some new life with money in her pocket." He shook his head. "I am sorry you learned this truth about someone you loved. Were there signs I missed? Should I have known? Love makes us blind to what we do not want to see. This is not your failure." He stood, extending his hand. "Your flight leaves in 2 hours. Go home. Begin again. Panama will always welcome you back when you are ready, under better circumstances." I watched him disappear into the terminal crowd, this man who'd saved my life from ruin for no reason except that it was right. Then I sat alone, surrounded by strangers, and let myself finally feel the full weight of what I'd lost and what I'd been spared. The departure lounge was 3/4 empty when I finally settled into a seat near the windows. My replacement flight didn't leave for another 90 minutes, which gave me too much time to think. Outside, planes taxied and departed, each carrying passengers toward reunions, vacations, business deals, normal destinations for normal lives. Mine felt anything but normal now. My phone, returned by security, buzzed constantly. Missed calls from my brother. Text messages from friends wondering how the trip was going. A cheerful reminder from our bank about our joint credit card's rewards balance. The infrastructure of a shared life, now obsolete. I should call someone, my brother, maybe, or my best friend from college. But what would I say? "Hey, remember my wife? Yeah, she tried to frame me for international drug trafficking. How's your week going?" Some truths were too bizarre to fit into casual conversation. Instead, I opened my phone's photo gallery. There we were, laughing at the Panama Canal, standing before a Casco Vijo sunset, posing with indigenous children in the Embera village. My wife's smile was brilliant in every shot, her arm around me possessive and affectionate. Had any of it been real? Or had she been acting from the moment she agreed to marry me, seeing not a partner but a patsy, someone disposable enough to sacrifice for whatever desperate escape she'd imagined? "Excuse me." A woman in an airline uniform stood beside me, her expression professionally apologetic. We have you listed for an upgrade to business class as compensation for your delay. Would you like to board early?
That's kind of you.
Yes, thank you. She escorted me through the priority boarding lane, and I found myself in a leather seat that reclined almost flat, complete with noise-cancelling headphones and a pre-departure beverage. The flight attendant brought champagne without asking. I stared at the golden bubbles rising in the flute, thinking about celebration and its opposite. A man settled into the seat beside me, late 60s, expensive watch, the confident demeanor of someone accustomed to business class. He nodded politely, then did what any reasonable person would do on a flight, minded his own business. Except I found myself wanting to talk. Needing to, maybe. Do you believe people can change? I asked abruptly. Or are we who we've always been, just better at hiding it? He looked startled, then thoughtful. That's quite a question for a Tuesday afternoon. Bad trip. You could say that. Well. He considered. I think we're always becoming. Some people become better versions of themselves, braver, kinder, more honest. Others become worse, making choices that shrink them into something smaller and more afraid. The becoming never stops until we do. And if someone you loved became something you didn't recognize, then you grieve what you thought you had, and you keep becoming too, toward something better, hopefully. He extended his hand. I'm Raphael, divorce attorney in Tampa for 35 years. You develop a philosophy after hearing enough stories. I shook his hand, laughing despite everything. That's either terrible luck or perfect timing. Usually both, in my experience. The plane pushed back from the gate, and I watched Panama City recede below us, the skyline, the canal cutting through the isthmus, the jungle stretching green and infinite. Somewhere down there, my wife sat in a holding cell, facing consequences she'd never imagined would apply to her. Our guide was probably back to leading tours, keeping his eyes open for other tourists in peril. And the blogger-turned-smuggler was cutting deals, trading information to reduce his sentence. All these lives intersecting and diverging like flight paths crossing the same airspace, briefly sharing the same sky before continuing towards separate destinations. Can I ask you something? Raphael said as we reached cruising altitude. What made you start questioning? Most people don't want to see betrayal, even when it's obvious. Our guide warned me. A stranger who had no reason to care about my problems except that he noticed something wrong. I thought about those moments, the careful warnings, the surveillance footage, the intervention at exactly the right time. He could have minded his own business. Probably should have. But he didn't. Good people still exist, Raphael said. Easy to forget when you're focused on the bad ones. The flight attendant brought lunch, some kind of chicken dish that I barely tasted. Raphael talked about his daughter, a marine biologist studying coral reefs in the Caribbean. I talked about my job, my brother, the house I'd bought 3 years ago that now felt contaminated by lies. We didn't discuss my situation directly, but the conversation itself was therapeutic, proof that normal human connections still existed, that not everyone was performing an elaborate con. Somewhere over the Gulf of Mexico, exhaustion finally caught up with me. I reclined my seat and closed my eyes, and for the first time in days, I slept without anxiety. No nightmares about prison cells or courtrooms. Just darkness and rest. I woke to the captain announcing our descent. Through the window, I saw the American coastline resolving from abstract shapes into familiar geography. Beaches, highways, suburban sprawl. Home, whatever that meant now. Raphael was reading a paperback, but he glanced over when I stirred. There's a lot ahead of you. Divorce proceedings, probably depositions for the criminal case, untangling finances. It will be ugly and exhausting. I know. But here's what I tell all my clients. This is not the end of your story. This is just the chapter where you learn something crucial about trust, about awareness, about yourself. The next chapter is yours to write. The wheels touched down with a gentle bump. Passengers around us reached for overhead luggage, powering on phones, already mentally at their next destination. I sat for a moment longer, letting the reality settle in. I was home. I was safe. I was free. And I was profoundly, unutterably alone. But alone wasn't the same as defeated. Alone meant unencumbered. Alone meant I could rebuild without worrying about hidden agendas or secret plans. Alone meant the only person I had to trust was myself. Raphael handed me his card as we deplaned. If you need a referral to someone in your state, call me. And if you ever find yourself in Tampa, the first beer is on me. Thank you. For everything. Take care of yourself. The world is full of people worth trusting again. Don't let one liar convince you otherwise. I rode the airport train to baggage claim, collected my suitcase, now cleared of incriminating evidence, and walked out into humid Florida evening air. My brother had texted that he'd pick me up, and I spotted his car idling at the curb. Welcome home. He hugged me hard, then held me at arm's length, studying my face. Jesus, you look like hell. Was Panama that exhausting? You have no idea. Well, come on. I've got pizza and beer at my place. You can tell me all about it. As we drove through familiar streets toward my brother's apartment, I thought about what I would tell him and what I would keep private. Some wounds needed air to heal. Others needed time, quiet, and the slow work of understanding. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Safe travels. Remember, the door is always open when you're ready to see Panama properly. Your guide. I smiled despite everything and typed back, thank you for saving my life. Literally. 3 dots appeared, then, you saved yourself by being willing to see the truth. I just held up the mirror. The city lights blurred past the car window, familiar, ordinary, comforting in their predictability. Tomorrow I would start the process of dismantling a shared life, lawyers, bank accounts, the house we'd bought together. Tomorrow I would tell my family the full story, endure their shock and sympathy and rage on my behalf. Tomorrow I would begin becoming again. But tonight, I would sit with my brother, eat pizza, and remember that not everyone lies. Not everyone betrays. Some people warn you about dangers you can't see. Some people offer unexpected wisdom at 30,000 feet. Some people pick you up from the airport without asking complicated questions. The world was still full of genuine kindness, honest affection, and trustworthy love. I'd just been looking in the wrong place. As we pulled into my brother's parking lot, I took one last glance at my phone, at the photos from Panama, the messages from my wife pretending our marriage was real, the warnings I'd almost ignored. Then I deleted them all. Not to forget, I would never forget, but to stop giving them power over what came next. Because the next chapter was mine to write. And this time, I'd be a hell of a lot more careful about who held the pen.